So our next storyteller is Mackenzie Brown.
Woohoo! Bounce in the house.
Mackenzie obtained her master's in public health from East Carolina University. She was then a research fellow at Stanford University and is now a research coordinator at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. Mackenzie also enjoys needle pointing in her spare time. So please make some noise and welcome to the stage, Mackenzie Brown.
My dad passed away from sudden cardiac arrest when I was 6 years old. Ever since then, I've had an intense fear of heart-related issues. This is partly unfounded, though, because I'm adopted. So while I won't inherit my dad's poor heart genes, I don't actually know what genes I did inherit. My brother is also adopted, and both of our adoptions were closed, but it was never kept a secret from us that we were adopted. Looking back on the way that we were raised, my family always made it a point to tell us that families were created all different ways. Some are made, some are found, and some are chosen. Our family just happened to be made all three of those ways, and that's called adoption. I always knew that I wanted to find my biological mom one day. I really wanted to learn more about my family history, and I always struggled with the nature versus nurture question. What parts of me could be attributed to biology, and what parts of me were influenced by my environment? My bad sense of humor and my dry sense of humor had to come from somewhere, and I needed to know who to blame for my pathological existentialism. It was becoming a problem. My brother's biological mom found him during the pandemic. Texting back and forth turned into phone-in video calls, which progressed to him posing with them on family vacation to the lake for their Christmas card. He had 6 new brothers and sisters to discuss the latest Star Wars theories with, and I was jealous. Not because I loved Star Wars, but because I wanted siblings. I'm the OS, the original sister, like I like to call it, but that's really tough competition. His nature and nurture were coming together so beautifully to paint this picture of his past and help narrate his present. But where was mine, right? I was so happy for him, but didn't I deserve that too? I had theories that I wanted to discuss. Granted, they were more informed by my passion for mental health research and the psychological implications of the Stanford prison experiment, but still, where was mine? I struggled with these questions quite a bit on and off. And I wasn't ready to start trying to find answers to these questions until after I had graduated from my Master's of Public Health program, which is where I fully started to understand the importance that social support had on my overall health and happiness. So naturally, I put on my white lab coat like a real scientist, and I collected my spit in a tiny little test tube, and I sent it off to Ancestry.com to be analyzed. I was convinced that my biological mom or another close relative would pop up in the search results. According to my DNA, though, my closest living relative was a third cousin who lived all the way in Scotland with no connections to this half of the world. This was effectively a dead end. Should I spend more money on another DNA service like 23andMe? Should I hire a private investigator? Did people even do that outside of the movies and TV shows? I had no idea. As a young adult, WebMD had become my best friend. A general sense of worry about nothing in particular as it goes when you have anxiety, had always simmered on the surface for me, but strange new symptoms like heart palpitations and air hunger, which is a thing, um, brought that simmer to a boil with an overwhelming sense of panic and impending doom about all of the ways that I could actively be dying at any given moment. Being supportive, my boyfriend at the time suggested that starting my search again for answers to these questions about my family history, and specifically my family health history, could help ease some of these worries. So a couple months later, when we were sitting at a brewery on the patio drinking a nice cold Kolsch on a beautiful spring day, we brought the conversation up again. I didn't know where to begin the search, and he suggested that I search for her on Facebook. People were reunited on Facebook all the time, right? It sounded a little too simple, and why hadn't I thought of that? But I eagerly picked up my phone and felt my heart start to race and beats hammer in my chest and the beats reverberating throughout my body as I picked up my phone and opened the Facebook app. With shaky and trembling hands, I typed in my mom's name on Facebook and saw a bunch of profiles pop up. I sighed a little with relief. More options meant this had a bigger chance this was going to work. My eyes scanned the first two profiles on the left, taking in the names and the vague locations of the individuals. I had known my mom's name, and it was pretty unique, so that helped. But I knew almost immediately that these weren't her. My mom had me when she was 19, and these individuals looked to be a little bit older than I expected my mom to look at this point in time. My anxiety peaked. Hot acid spread throughout my stomach like a battery had exploded. I realized not everybody had Facebook. Not even some of my close friends were on social media nowadays. What if this didn't work? What was my next step? My finger flipped the screen, and the third thumbnail peeked over the horizon of the phone, and I froze. I saw her long, oval face, upturned button nose, and freckles dotting her cheeks. Hair the color of dandelion honey and steeped black tea. She was beautiful, and I looked like her. I eagerly pressed her profile so I could look at a bigger picture, see her clear, find the rest of myself within her profile. But it was loading so slowly, and while I waited, I contemplated what I would say in my first message to her. Hi, how are you? I'm your daughter. What do you say in a situation like that? I Googled it. Nobody had any answers. Finally, the page loaded in a blink and a flash of color, pixel by pixel, and I saw her face clear as day. I saw her infectious smile and could almost hear her contagious laughter through the screen. I scanned the rest of the page, looking for more of myself in the confines of her profile. But as I was looking, cursive letter caught my eye. And at the top of the page, in the heading, next to her name, was "In Loving Memory."